Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show. This is the first episode of Penn State head coaching candidate profiles. There is 1.5 million names being thrown around by the national media, Penn State, everybody. I'm going to give you guys a full rundown on all these names that you're hearing, their backgrounds of these coaches, their philosophies. Do they fit Penn State? How do they fit? Also, we'll talk contract situations for them. So hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying the content. You want to stay up to date on all of these guys, and one of them is likely to be Penn State's next head coach. First up, Mizzou head coach Eli Drinkwitz. So Drink has been the head coach at Missouri since 2020. Prior to that, he was the head coach at App State. Now, he is an offensive-minded coach. He was an offensive coordinator at multiple places, including Boise State. And something we're always going to identify in these videos is which coaching tree does this coach come from. Now, for Drink, he stems from the Gus Malzahn coaching tree. When Malzahn was a high school coach in Arkansas, Drink was actually one of his assistants, and then Malzahn was the head coach at Arkansas State, and Drink was his running back coach there. So that is kind of who he's learned from, and we see a lot of their similarities as far as offensive coaching styles between the two. Now, Drink has not been a true play caller since 2023. Prior to the 2023 season is when he kind of surrendered those duties to a true offensive coordinator, but you can still see really a heavy influence of his philosophies in this Mizzou offense. Now, you might ask, what are his philosophies, or what is his main philosophy? Drink values efficiency over explosiveness. And I'd say it was probably the opposite for James Franklin in Penn State. Franklin was obsessed, and you always heard him talking about the explosive play battle. And he was upset. He would always tell us, if you win the explosive play battle, you win the game, 75% of the time. So that was something that he valued. And like I said, so it's kind of different. And this shows through their quarterback stats. So here are, that we're putting on the screen now, the 7 quarterbacks that started under Drink while he's been a head coach. You got 2025 for Beulah, 69.6%, Cook, 62.4%, Cook again, 65.5%, Cook, 62.4%, Basilak, 64.9%, Basilak, 67.3%, and Zach Thomas, 62.5% completion rate. So not a single one of Drink's quarterbacks have had worse than a 62% completion rate. And you might say, well, 62 is not even really that good of a completion percentage. Well, of James Franklin's career at Penn State, only 4 out of the 12 seasons did his starting quarterback surpass a 62% completion rate. So let's hop into the film room, and I'm going to show you, how does Drink create the efficiency in his offense for his quarterback? All right, one thing that Mizzou really likes to do, that Penn State likes to do too, is run this wide outside zone, because it gets everybody moving. They're running to the right, and it does the same thing to the defense. It pulls everybody to one way, and it can create some big gaps. So, decent run here, but we've seen Penn State run a lot of this. Now, how Mizzou creates efficiency for their quarterback is they do a ton of play action off of this. So you're going to see the same thing. This looks like it's outside zone out here, and everybody's flowing to this thing, except Bo Prabula is going to keep this on a naked boot, and what you're going to see is everybody overcommit to this thing, and then coming back, you have some guys that are wide open, take your pick, easy completions for the quarterback. Bo Prabula actually this year on play action alone has a passer rating of 104. So it's just these easy passes because everybody's in trail mode, because the guys that have this tight end and this wide receiver, they got fooled by the outside zone fake. So everything is kind of built off of the run game, but play action and boot is such a big staple of this Drink offense that he runs here. And it's a lot of time, it's just these easy passes, because this defensive end right here is put in conflict. He either has to run with this tight end, or he has to come get Bo Prabula. Either way, Prabula can run, or he can dump it off like he does here. Easy completion to it's not just about these easy completions, and that's why everybody has a good completion rate under Drink, but it's also about it's 1st and 10, and hey, now let's go get in 2nd and 4. It's staying ahead of the sticks, and that's what efficiency really does for you. And also, a lot of these Mizzou quarterbacks, they have decent rushing stats. Since 2022,
every single Mizzou quarterback has at least 300 yards rushing in a season and more than 4 yards per carry. It's because they get, like that's a simple run, but it's just good because you are getting easy yards. You're putting guys in conflict. So basically this DB right here has to decide, do I want to drift back and stay on this and let Prbula run, or do I want to come down and let him dink it over the top? Either way, you're getting your team easy yards, and hey, now we just gained 5 yards there off of an easy boot. So that's something that Mizzou has made a living on, but play action as a whole is something what they do. So you see that play action, hard fake, it grabs all of these linebackers and pulls them down just a little bit so guys aren't in great position. You see this DB in full-on trail mode, and then this is one hell of a pass from Bo Prbula. Sometimes you just need a dude that can place it where only your guy can go and get it. But you see it here. Once again, watch the linebackers. When you're running the ball well and you're running a lot of this outside zone, when you get into that fake, look at the position that 23's in, because he was coming down to play the run. And this is what makes these Drink offenses so good. It's run, it's play action boot. And then when you get someone that can put the ball right there, it's always a good day.
All right, now let's talk about, does Drink fit in Happy Valley? And his geographic roots are set in the Mid-South. That's kind of where he's always been. He does have 4 young children, and he's been a pretty integral part of the Missouri community. So he doesn't have a ton of ties to the Northeast, but he actually has recruited in the Penn State region fairly well pretty recently here. So he's actually, last class, 2025, he had 3 recruits that were top 250 recruits from he went Ohio, he went PA, and he went Maryland. And obviously one of those being Matt Zollers, who was the 9th rated quarterback in America, and he was from PA. Penn State wanted him, but Drink was able to get him out to Mizzou. So he has established some of those recruiting connections in the Northeast regions. Now, it seems that Pat Kraft and Franklin did not really agree on the aggressiveness in NIL, and they didn't see eye to eye. Kraft wanted to go all in, and Franklin was a little bit more about keeping the peace of the locker room. Now, one thing about Drinkwitz is that he is not only all in with NIL, and you can see that, he's actually an outside-the-box thinker when it comes to NIL. So he worked with Missouri legislators to pass a bill that allowed Mizzou to basically pay high schoolers that were committed to them to keep them committed. And that was important because a lot of nowadays, that's the hard part. There's so much money being thrown around, and these guys are saying, hey, Mizzou's already basically in my bank account. I'm staying with Mizzou. So Missouri was actually one of the first states to do this, and it was because of Drink's influence and him just trying to be so forward-thinking with NIL. And then other states eventually caught on and have since passed the same legislation. But I think it's clear that Drink is all in, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. If that's going to Harrisburg to lobby, it seems like he would do that. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is his contract. And we're going to talk about that with every candidate and give you the logistics of, how much is Penn State going to pay? Is there buyouts? All of that type of stuff. So just a few months ago in July, Drinkwitz signed a contract with Mizzou that extended him through 2029. So I don't think this is someone that Penn State has to worry about getting kind of just signed away to an extension and they're off the table, similar to Curt Cignetti in Indiana that kind of took him out of the coaching search for Penn State. So it seems like Drink is likely going to be a name that is going to be into this mix until the very end, really. Now, when a coach leaves for a new gig and they are still under contract, they have a buyout that they have to pay back to the school. It's not even close to the same buyout that, say, Penn State has to pay to James Franklin, which we've all heard is $50 million, and we talked about that. That's another video about why Penn State very well may not have to pay that much, but we'll talk about that another time. Now, the buyout that a coach has to pay back, if they still have, let's say, 3 or 4 years left in their contract, and they say, hey, he says, hey, I'm headed off to Penn State, it is much lower. So, and generally, it's always covered by the school they are going to. So Penn State would cover the rest of the money that Drink needs to pay back. The logistics of it is Drink would be on the hook for $5 million if he left Mizzou that he needs to pay back if he left before December 1st, 2025. If he waits till December 2nd, 2025, the buyout goes down to $4 million that Penn State would essentially have to give Drink to then give back to Mizzou to pay them back for leaving. So that is the rundown on Eli Drinkwitz, Missouri head coach. I think this guy's a real candidate. Like I said, he is going to be in the running until the very end. I'm curious to see how this all pans out. I would put him in the category I don't want to say home run hire, but if Penn State was able to land Drinkwitz, they'd be sitting in a very good position. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions, comments down below. Tomorrow, we will be releasing the Drew Aller We Never Knew. One of my favorite videos I've ever done. I'm really excited for you guys to see that one. But until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Peace.